helmet was wheeled off. The players went back to the locker room for a couple of minutes, and now we are underway with St. Peter's, the number 4 seed, against Rider, the number 5 seed. And being the higher seed, the Peacocks in their home white uniforms with a blue lettering and trim, and the Bronx in their road cranberry, trying to win 3 games in 3 days with a chance to cut down the nets on Monday night.
And right off the bat, St. Peter's turning the basketball over, and that's one of the things that you're going to see a lot more of this afternoon than you regularly see from Rider. Trapping the basketball, a little bit more pressured defense because of the turnover woes of St. Peter's.
Again, Justin Robinson at the point, a 6'2 junior from London. And here is Ryan Thompson posting against Yvonne Raymond. Back out to Novar Gadsden. Off the up fake, he gets the roll.
Now Gadsden, a guy that's come on strong offensively here coming down the stretch. And a guy that can squirt, and when he does that, they certainly get that extra score outside of their backcourt.
Now Gadsden, the all-time leading scorer in John Bartram High School history, and the man he passed, who was in second place, Kobe Bryant's father, is number 2 on the list. Joe Jellybean Bryant, number 2 behind Novar Gadsden. There's head coach Tommy Dempsey. Our coaching matchup brought to you by Anaconda Sports, home of the Rock. In year number 5 as the head coach of the Bronx. He's a 1997 graduate of Susquehanna. And as you saw there, he was coach of the year in the MAAC a couple of years ago.
And it's been a trying season for Tommy Dempsey. A lot of expectations coming in this year. They just have not been able to put it together with any type of consistency.
Wesley Jenkins, 6'2 junior. Raymond, tough spot to leave your feet in traffic, and he's tied up by Mike Ringgold, and the ball goes over to Rider. And there's John Dunn in the other half of our coaching matchup, brought to you by Anaconda Sports, home of the Rock. John Dunn, 1992 Ithaca College graduate, in his 4th season as head coach of the Peacocks, and he has done a terrific job in reinvigorating this program.
Been doing it with a solid group of juniors, and you saw right there, coaching fundamentals. Don't leave your feet, don't put yourself in the air, and put yourself in jeopardy of coming up with another turnover.
Well, not many people, Rob, saw St. Peter's going 11-7 in league play this year. Reverse layup good by Mike Ringgold, but that is what St. Peter's did. That's the best league record for that team in 6 years.
And they did it with their defense. This is a team that really is hard to score against. They give great effort, good solid man-to-man defense.
St. Peter's has had the ball for 3 possessions, turned it over 3 times.
So not taking care of that first key, huh?
Nope, not at all. Conley does get a shot up, but it rims out. And Rider with the basketball up early 4-0 in our first quarterfinal at the Times Union Center here in Albany. Gadsden, another nice ball fake. Extra pass for the dead-eye Robinson, who misfires. Gadsden with a touch pass, but it's taken away by the Peacocks.
Smart play by Jenkins to keep that alive.
Raymond blocked by Gadsden.
But Gadsden coming with energy, and when he does that, he is a handful.
Blocking foul on the shot by Thompson. He's trying to convince the official that it should be a shooting foul. Personal goes against Nick Leon, who, as you see, is slow in getting up. And it is a 2-shot foul. Ryan Thompson goes to the free throw line. Nick Leon trying to make sure he's okay to play.
Doug, early on, Rider, the team that's been the aggressor, attacking the rim that time. As soon as Thompson caught it out on the wing in transition, he was thinking about one thing, getting himself right to the rim. They've had good energy flying around the court here to start.
Jerron Beelan in the ball game for the first time. At the free throw line, Ryan Thompson, the leader of this club, first team all-conference, was the preseason conference player of the year. Second in the league in scoring, just a touch under 17. And he said earlier this week, quote, "Now we go to Albany with a chip on our shoulder."
Well, that's key. When he plays that way, and when they all of a sudden get themselves aggressively attacking the rim and not just running through things, you know, again, this is a team that people pick to finish in third. They've got a terrific roster.
Nick Leon with a 2-point shot has the Peacocks on the board. As you say, Rider was picked 3rd in the preseason coaches poll, but by all accounts has underperformed. And again, at times they have looked like that team, and even better, going to Mississippi State to open the season and winning a terrific non-conference game against the Bulldogs, but they have lost games repeatedly throughout the conference season that you wouldn't expect them to.
One of the interesting things, I think Niagara comes in with a chip on their shoulder as well. So the two teams that people thought would be the two most likely teams to challenge Siena, they come into this tournament with something to prove.
Ryan Bacon working the offensive glass. He's on the floor. And we've got a tie-up. That'll be St. Peter's basketball. Well, you know, no disrespect to Fairfield and Iona, the teams that finished second and third in the league, but Rider and Niagara, as you mentioned, are just as respected, I think, by the other coaches around the league. So you've got 4 viable contenders, at least, to try and knock off Siena here this weekend.
No question. And the thing is, the rosters of Rider, especially their first 5, and the first 5 of Niagara, you'd say, okay, those are 2 teams that can challenge. The problem is that better teams have been Iona as well as Fairfield because they've played like teams from beginning of the season through till the end.
Well, Rob, if we took another coaches poll now, while clearly Fairfield and Iona would be up in the top 4 somewhere, top 5, it wouldn't surprise me if it was similar to the preseason coaches poll with Niagara and Rider being 2 and 3.
I agree, because I think they're very dangerous teams.
Nearly 4 minutes gone here in the first half of our first quarterfinal. Nick Leon with 10 to shoot. Raymond from the left wing. And Thompson clears.
Now, solid defensive start for the Bronx. Remember, we talked about the fact they've been good on offense, but they've struggled defensively throughout the season. Not so at the start of this ball game.
Thompson misfires. He's a 33% shooter from beyond the arc. Slow start at this end for St. Peter's. Just 2 points so far in the first 4.5 minutes. Jenkins feeds the post, and Bacon has it stripped away by Penn.
And he turns it over. If you go double down, he consistently turns it over out of those doubles.
4 turnovers so far in the early going, Rob, for the Peacocks. Penn has his pass kicked into the St. Peter's bench, and that takes us to our first media timeout here in Albany with St. Peter's down 4. Welcome back to the Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships presented by Pepsi Max. Ryder with the early lead over St. Peter's. And now let's introduce the third member of our broadcast team here for the MAAC quarterfinals, former assistant coach at Iona College, Vin Parisi.
Thanks, Doug. Well, obviously, Ryan Thompson, being a first-team All-MAAC selection, is at the top of St. Peter's scouting report for today's basketball game, but it's Justin Robinson. His outside shooting is what the Peacocks got to be aware of. Robinson shot 44% from downtown in MAAC conference plays this year. If they're going to win, they got to know where he is. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Vin. Indeed, shooting on the year 45%, second best in the league behind Mike Ivanovich of Fairfield.
And had a great end of the regular season, a career-high 27 in the regular season finale against Canisius, including a perfect 5 for 5 from beyond the 3.
Another open look. This time Thompson has the range.
And again, too many open looks early on for Ryder from the perimeter. You got to get out, and you got to close out quicker. You got to chase him off that three-point line. Force him to put the ball to the deck and get by it.
And at this end, St. Peter's needs to be more efficient, having turned the ball over 4 times already.
Hard to score if you can't put in play. If you can't get it up on the rim, you're not going to win ball games.
Jenkins has it knocked away by Thompson.
You would think with a team that's got such good guards that they wouldn't turn it over as much as they do. On the season, averaging over 16 turnovers per game.
Ron Beelan fouled on the putback, and he will shoot 2. Well, Rob, this is the first game for each of these 2 teams in this tournament. Neither had to play in a first-round game, so, it's the start of the MAAC tournament. They've been in town for a couple of days just practicing, perhaps getting some jitters out, getting themselves acclimated to the environment. Perhaps not. Perhaps just off to a poor start.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't know sometimes, but you're right. I mean, it's a little bit different. It's a small crowd here. Even when they played their regular season games here against Siena, it's a big crowd. There's a lot of life and energy in the building. And certainly St. Peter's off to a slow offensive start. But I think you got to credit Ryder's defense. They've had good energy here to start this ball game defensively.
Foul on Darius Conley on the missed free throw. Well, for St. Peter's, they play in front of the smallest crowds at home at the Yanatelli Center in this conference, so I would think as much as any team, they're accustomed to creating their own energy and not having to rely on the crowd to feed off of.
And usually what creates their energy is their defense. They're so tough to score against. Top 10 in the country in field goal percentage defense as Conley trying to battle and be physical inside, picked up his second foul.
Well, the 6'7" redshirt freshman from Newport News, Virginia needs to settle down because off of his first foul, he was woofing with the official, and then just a few seconds later, he picks up number 2, and you could see in that brief look at his face, he is none too happy to be on the St. Peter's bench with 2 fouls.
Yeah, freshman mistake. You pick up a foul, just go back. Don't give the officials any opportunity to kind of focus in on you on the next possession.
Ringgold doing what he does. Layup for 2.
And doing what he did against them in their second meeting where he was 8 of 10 from the floor. You know, he's a guy whose range literally is about 3 feet from the bucket, yet he's an accomplished scorer because he gets so many looks 3 feet and in.
Off the 5th St. Peter's turnover. Ryder can't connect. And here comes Jenkins. To the bucket and a blocking foul called against Penn.
Wesley Jenkins being the aggressor, putting the ball to the floor. His first 2 years, Doug, he really settled for a lot of outside shots. He worked hard on his body, his quickness this offseason, and we've seen him put the ball to the floor and slash to the rim much better here in his junior season.
And on Thursday, he was named 3rd team All-MAAC, having averaged over 14 points and 5 rebounds per game. Beelan gets caught underneath the rim, fortunate to get it back. Stripped out of bounds by Thompson. St. Peter's will keep. There's Ryan Thompson, the 6'6" senior from Mount Laurel, New Jersey, second in the conference in scoring this year at 16.9 points per game.
Against the zone, you've got to get some movement. You got to find guys inside.
Great set. Samuels from the high post, though, could not connect to the low post with Beelan.
Well, they put it right into the high post area, soft spot of that 2-3 zone. And then once they got it, they had great high-low action. If it's a bounce pass, instead you float it up top, and it goes out of bounds.
So turnover number 6 for John Dunn's club, and even though they got the nice set, got the ball where they wanted to out of the inbound, they still couldn't do the right thing. Patrick Mansell in the ball game for the first time for Ryder, a 6'1" junior from Cheltenham, Pennsylvania, who is a 3-point specialist. He's number 14 in Cranberry. Here goes Robinson, as Vin was saying, the all-around player for the Bronx, who stepped out of bounds. Bacon, Leon, Raymond, Jenkins, and Jaron Beelan, the 5 on the floor for the Peacocks. Up here in the capital of New York State from Jersey City, New Jersey. Leon's pass deflected by Robinson and saved, and here come the Bronx. Mansell from way downtown. A little bit short, Bacon the rebound.
A little too far downtown, but Ryder continues to hedge so hard on that high ball screen, it's really bothered Leon.
Leon, a 5'11" junior out of Lincoln High School in Brooklyn. Not just point guard, he's a scoring point guard, averaging over 13 per game. And there's turnover number 7 as Raymond had it stripped away. Gadsden spotting up, and he hits.
And you got to go find him outside at times. He settles for too many threes, but he shoots it at a decent percentage at 29% on the season.
Timeout called with 11:57 on the clock. The Gadsden 3 stretches it to an 11-point lead, and St. Peter's, as you see, only 3 points through the first 8 minutes, and Coach Dunn beyond frustrated at this point.
You see Gadsden, one of the reasons why he's such a tough matchup. He's got good size at 6'7" and comfortable playing with his back to the basket, but he can also stretch defenses out. John Dunn has seen those type of offensive numbers, 3 points, but it's usually from the opposing team. They're tops in the MAAC as their opponents scored just 60 points per game, but right now they can't score, Doug, because they can't get shots. They just keep turning the basketball over.
And here's the hedge defense we've been talking about.
Well, coming on this high ball screen, you're going to see how they bother Nick Leon. Here it comes, good hedge. They nearly get a trap, and now they stay with it long enough that Robinson gets a hand on it. Great hustle by Ryan Thompson to keep it alive, and then they're off and running.
John Thompson into the ball game for Ryder for the first time here this afternoon. Ira Ndiazuma also in the game, and he was the last to touch, so it'll be St. Peter's basketball when we come back. Back in Albany, Ryder with a 14-3 lead, middle of the first half, and Rob Kennedy, turnovers can be contagious.
And we see them because of good defense and because of bad offense. Talked about the fact that Bacon at times really struggles with doubles. Right here, Raymond leaves his feet. Good solid defense by Ringgold. And right there, just a bad pass. So a combination of good defense and bad offense. One of the reasons why John Dunn, very adamant in that last timeout, trying to fire his team up and get them to take care of the basketball.
The MAAC is now on Facebook. Make sure to catch up on the latest MAAC news by logging on to facebook.com/MAAC Sports and becoming a fan. Ryan Thompson now with 7 early points. The lead is up to 13.
And Ryder's been mixing their defenses, mostly man-to-man throughout the season, but playing a little bit more zone here in the early going.
Jenkins and Leon in the backcourt along with Yvonne Raymond for St. Peter. Shot clock down to 12.
Yeah, it takes them that long to just get organized to go against the zone.
Now Beelan backing out, gives to Jenkins with 5 to shoot. He gets it off from the foul line, and it's way off the mark. Leon able to scrap for the offensive rebound. He fires away. That time shot clock not an issue. John Thompson clears the rebound for Ryder. Ringgold fouled on the drive. Shot didn't go. Let's send it back over to Vin.
In St. Peter's huddle, listening to John Dunn, who is just pleading with his guys to put multiple defensive stops together. He is not happy with their half-court defense, and on the offensive end, he's not happy with the way they're attacking the zone. He wants the basketball in the middle of the floor, wants them to do a better job attacking the foul line, and he's not happy at all with the shot selection. Back to you guys.
Yeah, nothing to be happy about when you've got 3 on the board. You've played over 9 minutes. They just have not been efficient. The other thing, Doug, is they've been sluggish. Very sluggish on both ends of the floor. You would have expected them to come out with some good energy. The team that's had the energy has been Ryder, and that's why they've got themselves a 14-point lead.
Yeah, no question about that. Ryder comes into this tournament having lost 2 of its last 3. They went 16-5 overall, 9-9 in league play, and are the number 5 seed to the number 4 seeded St. Peter's Peacocks.
And look at how quickly closing out of the zone, doing a great job recovering, nearly coming up with another steal.
Leon finds a crease, misfires. Nice tip by Jenkins. But the rebound pulled down by Ringgold. And he will gather and try to find a teammate. No guards coming to him. Without Justin Robinson on the floor, Ryan Thompson becomes the primary ball handler along with John Thompson, who's got the ball now. Thompson being more assertive. Ball tipped up by Ringgold, and Jordan Costner into the ball game for the Peacocks, pulls it down.
And that's always a key. Anytime that you're saying Ryan Thompson's being aggressive and being assertive, that usually means that he's playing well and Ryder's playing well.
And the other member of our Star Watch, Wesley Jenkins, now on the board with a chance for a 3-point play.
A good ball fake, even the little nudge there, because he's such a good shooter, draws the attention, and then aggressively putting the ball to the floor. Last year it would have been ball fake, 1 dribble and jump shot. Instead, this year, getting himself all the way to the rack.
First foul on Ndiazuma, and the third against Ryder. As St. Peter's tries to claw its way back into the ball game. Jenkins with the old-fashioned 3-point play.
And they're a team that scratches and claws all year long because of their defense, and they've got to get themselves defensively, creating some turnover to see if they can't create some offense with their defense.
You mentioned earlier, Rob, that St. Peter's defensively is best in the MAAC in terms of giving up points, only 60 per game. They also hold their opponents to only 37% shooting from the floor, although Ringgold is a high percentage kind of guy.
Well, that's right. You got to figure out a way to keep the ball out of his hands or run a double. Couldn't get a double there quick enough on that quick catch and score.
Ringgold with 7, Thompson with 7. It's 19-6 Ryder. Another St. Peter's turnover, and here comes Robinson. Nice switch to the left hand for 2.
And once again, John Dunn unhappy, and he's got to get himself a timeout. He's got to use those timeouts right now just to try and gather his team, settle them down, and try and stay in the ball game. Right now, Ryder threatening to run away with it.
Now John Dunn, a former high school backcourt mate of longtime NBA star Kenny Anderson at Archbishop Malloy under legendary head coach Jack Curran, trying to use any lessons he learned under Coach Curran here today because his team's in trouble early. Don't miss out on the excitement. It's still not too late to get your tickets for the 2010 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships now through Monday here at the Times Union Center in Albany. Get your tickets by calling 1-800-30-EVENT or by logging on to timesunion.com. The Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships, where magic happens. No magic so far, though, for St. Peter's, stuck on just 6 points in the first 11 minutes.
It's been sleight of hand from the Bronx. Too many steals. Once again, the pressure defense coming up, trying to force yet another turnover.
Bacon. Bad pass, another turnover. Number 10.
Well, so far, the game plan working perfectly for the Bronx.
And then the foul given up on the hand check by Steven Samuels, a freshman from Windsor, Connecticut.
Out of the timeout, Tommy Dempsey doing a good job of extending the floor, and by doing that, you get a guy handling a basketball who's not used to it. Ryan Bacon, a guy who plays with his back to the basket, instead had to handle it. Good switch up out of that timeout by Tommy Dempsey.
Robinson has it knocked away by Brandon Hall. And a held ball will stay at this end. And there you see John Dunn, year number 4 as the head coach at St. Peter's. He was an assistant coach for many years at Seton Hall before getting his first opportunity to be a Division I head coach at the school in Jersey City, New Jersey. Robinson to trigger. Brandon Penn working on Jordan Costner. Whistle and a foul.
The Peacocks have been on their heels defensively all game long because Ryder continues to attack. And what happens, Doug, when you turn the basketball over, as much as John Dunn's team has done here in the first half, you feel like you're just running back the entire time, backpedaling, and so you never are able to really establish yourself to be the aggressor on the defensive side.
And you know, we talked about the fact that Ryan Thompson was quoted earlier this week as saying, now we go to Albany with a chip on our shoulder. Head coach Tommy Dempsey also said, we've been kicked while we were down this year. So you know they all are coming into Albany acting like, boy, we're going to take it to them and show these people. And certainly through the first 12 minutes, they have done that, Rob.
Yeah, just think back a couple of games ago, their second to last regular season game, they were thoroughly embarrassed by Siena. The Senate had that game won at halftime, and Ryder kind of just fell apart and was, looking like they had given up at that point in time. And then they come back, they're down by 5 late to Canisius, and a late run on senior day, keyed by the terrific play of Justin Robinson and a couple of key baskets by Ryan Thompson, got them going in a positive direction again.
Turnover number 11 for Coach John Dunn and his St. Peter's Peacocks. An inauspicious beginning for this MAAC championship for St. Peter's with nearly twice as many turnovers as points so far. Meanwhile, easy baskets the difference at the other end for Ryder.
And the key all season long for St. Peter's is they've been tough to score against, but right now, Ryder just attacking the rim. And as we said, St. Peter's on their heels defensively. And because of that, they can't get anything going. Quick spin and finish at the rim by Ringel. They haven't had an answer for him. They've owned the paint. John Dunn's team has turned the basketball over. It's been all Ryder here in the early going, and the stats back that up.
No question about it. St. Peter's shooting only 2 for 12 from the floor at the offensive end with 11 turnovers.
Oh, my.
The lob, though, is foiled by the nice defense of Ryan Bacon. Good to see Ryan Thompson get up after that hard fall. One and done for St. Peter's, and here comes Thompson back the other way. The preseason conference player of the year misfires from the foul line. Bacon rips it away.
And St. Peter's, they can't panic. Even though they're down by 16, they still have to play to their strengths. That's grinding ball games out. So even though they've got to make up that difference, and even though they've got to score the basketball, they've got to do it the way they've done it all season long.
Bacon, that is one way to do it, get it into him, and that's only his first field goal attempt. They need to keep pounding it inside to him.
That's exactly it. Go to what you've done all year. Grind it defensively and then be efficient at the offensive end. And then they've got to get him some touches so that they can free up some outside shots for the likes of Jenkins.
Well, Bacon averages over 10 points and 9 rebounds per game. That's second statistic, second best in the conference. Now the defense forces a Ryder turnover as Ringgold is called for steps.
And a late double. Took a little while to come, and talking to John Dunn earlier today, I asked him if they were going to run doubles at Ringgold because he was so dominant the last time they played. 8 of 10 from the floor, including a perfect 8 for 8 in this second half. He said, you know, we're going to try it some, but that's just not who we are. And every once in a while, you can't worry about what somebody else is doing. You've got to play to your own character. The only way that you've been able to win 11 games inside the league.
Rob, can a late double be more effective than an immediate double?
Yeah, because now you don't know it's coming. You put the ball to the floor. Now you run that double at them, and now it puts some pressure on. If they see it coming right out before they start making the move, it's easier to go locate a guy out on the perimeter.
Second bad miss for Jenkins. He missed everything that time.
Well, he's a guy, much like Nick Leon, they have short memory. And if you're going to be a shooter every once in a while, you got to play with that type of confidence. You forget about that missed shot and get right back to it.
Nice block shot by Bacon as Coach Dunn's defense picks up just a bit. Make sure to follow the latest MAAC news on the MAAC Twitter page by logging on to twitter.com/MAAC Sports. And I know the folks from the Metro Atlantic Athletic Office are here at the Times Union Center all weekend, tweeting and twittering for those of you checking online. 1-1 for Mike Ringgold, who is only a 31% foul shooter, junior out of Roman Catholic High School in Philadelphia.
And you'll see why. And it's a tough release, although he gets a nice shooter's roll. Anytime he makes a foul shot, there's a smile on the Ryder bench.
As well there should.
As we said, he's a guy literally whose range is about 4 to 5 feet. Yet he plays within himself and gets a ton of shots inside of 4 or 5 feet. One of the reasons why he averages double figures. Looking good, saying, you know what, be quiet over there about my foul shooting.
Well, he made preseason third-team All-MAAC this year, on the All-Rookie team a couple of years ago. The coaches around the league understand what he brings to the table, and while he's not going to be a prolific scorer, and as you say, he's not going to shoot outside of 5 feet, he's going to score very efficiently inside of 5 feet, and he's going to work his tail off at both ends.
Yeah, the ultimate energy and garbage guy, and does it defensively as well because he can guard all 5 positions.
Contact on that screen. Jenkins went down, and another turnover, number 12, committed by St. Peter's.
Oh, coming off the screen, tries to curl. See, just gets bumped down. Good no call right there because his feet get tangled up. Good defense by Jonathan Thompson, the freshman, to stay right with Jenkins, coming off that screen, trying to curl.
And when you're the guy coming off that screen, you're supposed to go shoulder to shoulder with your screener, but he got way too much of the shoulder of Beelan and went down.
Yeah, and even more so, get yourself down and go shoulder to hip so that you're coming off and you're in an athletic position to be able to catch and shoot. You're right, he gave him too much space to allow the defender to get through.
26-8, Ryder on top, St. Peter's with the basketball. Just over 5 minutes remaining in our first quarterfinal. The winner will move to the semifinals where either Siena or Manhattan will be the opposition. Shot clock at 6. And another St. Peter's turnover. Unlucky number 13.
Yeah, Baker's dozen doesn't work as far as turnovers in the first 15 minutes of a ball game. My goodness gracious, St. Peter's off to a horrific start here in the first half.
And this is a St. Peter's team averaging only 62 points per game. So if they are stuck at 8 at this point, down by as many as they are, it's hard to imagine a scenario where they're going to be able to put enough offense together to make up this deficit. Although long shots by Gadsden, the misfire, will help that cause. Tough pass to handle. Conley got himself underneath the backboard. And St. Peter's fortunate to keep possession.
Very fortunate. That was nearly turnover 14. Great catch out in the open floor by Conley.
Ryan Bacon back in for John Dunn. Conley will go out. Nick Leon and Wes Jenkins, a terrific backcourt duo for St. Peter's, who we have yet to see get going here today. Jenkins averages 14 points per game. Leon 13 per game. And combined so far, they have only 5. Nice backdoor lob and a chance for 3. Beelan, the junior out of Meriden, Connecticut, with the layup.
And Leon put it right where it needed to be. Good execution coming off the baseline out of bounds on the back screen to go get him. And Leon looking over. As we said, put it right where he needed to put it. Good catch and finish through the contact.
First foul on Ringgold. And you know, Rob, we were just talking about Twitter. Beelan has himself his Twitter account. He goes by Mohawk Ron, but I notice he has let the Mohawk grow in.
Yeah, it either grew in or he shaved the Mohawk part down. And Wally Bertecki getting Gadsden and Raymond together. Doesn't call a foul, but instead, good piece of officiating. Communicate. Tell guys, hey, you know what? Knock it off. I don't want to see that.
I like that.
Yep.
Nothing egregious was done on either side, and keep it from escalating, and you don't need to call a foul necessarily. Just rein them in and get control. 4:13 remaining first half. Ryan Thompson, senior out of Lenape High School in South Jersey, with the basketball. Gadsden left alone again, this time off the ball fake, kicks it out. Robinson has it blocked by Bacon, his second block shot. He's among the best in the conference at defending that goal, and Leon with the basketball. Robinson kicked it out of bounds, and so St. Peter's, in spite of itself, will have the ball when we come back. Ryder by 15. John Dunn trying to figure out what to do here in the first quarterfinal of the MAAC Championships.
It is a Catholic Jesuit university that stimulates the intellect and unleashes potential. It is a university known for its rigorous academic programs, state-of-the-art classrooms, and personalized attention. An experience that prepares students to succeed and to serve others for a more just and peaceful world. An opportunity that will inspire for a lifetime. Tradition, quality, leadership, value. We are Canisius College, where leaders are made.
The Rider University Broncs from Lawrenceville, New Jersey, here in Albany, New York, and enjoying a 15-point lead in our first quarterfinal of the Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships. And hey, it's almost here tomorrow. If you're between the ages of 6 and 16, register from 8:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. at Albany City Hall for the MAAC Bounce to the Arena. Participants will receive a basketball that they will bounce along a planned route from Albany City Hall just up the hill from where we sit here at the Times Union Center. Participants will also receive admission to the Women's Championship game. For more information, log on to MAACsports.com. It has been all Ryder so far here today, as the score will show you. Nick Leon misfires. Long rebound pulled down and put back by Bacon.
That's what they do better than anybody else in the MAAC. Crash the offense glass. They average 14 a game, and when you're struggling to score the basketball, you got to go get extra opportunities. Either create some turnovers with your defense or find some extra offensive opportunities off the offensive board.
Now 4.6 rebounds early now for Ryan Bacon. We talked about how St. Peter's will, if it can, get back into the ball game, and that is do what they do and force turnovers, which they do. Thompson gives it back to St. Peter's. That's turnover number 5 for the Broncs. John Dunn says, push the tempo. We have possessions we have to get back. Do not walk it up. And so they try to get into their offensive set more quickly and hold on to the basketball. You see, the turnovers have been the big story so far. Under 3 minutes remaining in the first half. Inside they go again to Bacon, to the left hand, and a chance for 3.
Well, the one thing about St. Peter's, as bad as they've been offensively, because they're still solid defensively, they keep themselves in the ball game. If you can make a couple of plays like they do right here on the nice finish inside through contact by Bacon, if they could get to the locker room with the lead down to single digits, all of a sudden that's a big victory for them. And when you look at how Ryder has dominated this whole first half, they're only up 11 because, again, St. Peter's, it's still hard to score against. Think about giving up all those points off turnovers, right? So Ryder's got 15 of their 26 off turnovers. St. Peter's still really solid in their half-court defense. If they just don't give the basketball away, they can get themselves right back in the ball game.
Well, back in mid-January, a home game against Loyola, St. Peter's managed only 14 points in the first half that day. Trailed 21-14, yet came back to win that ball game. And so certainly that is the blueprint by which St. Peter's will try and follow for the rest of this afternoon in their bid to come from behind and make it to the MAAC semifinals. Ringgold shooting 1-1, and in spite of his season numbers, he has looked good at the line so far here today. 3 out of 4. Make it 4 out of 5.
Oh my, I mean, that was right through, a swish, no rim. Taking his time. You know, he used to have that herky-jerky motion, but it seems to be a little smoother right now. 80% on the season. Talk about shooting it above your season averages. Oh, there you go. That's more like it.
Even so, the rotation is much better, and it comes off the fingertips better. There seems to be improvement. There's what Ringgold does. Stealing the ball. St. Peter's gives it right back to the boys in Cranberry, and a timeout call.
Bad decision by Nick Leon trying to force something that's not there. One of the problems with Leon as your point guard, he averages more turnovers than assists on the season, and we've seen that here in the first half.
Well, Rob, coming up in our halftime report, our recap of the first half, we'll also have a MAAC tournament future report on where the tournament will head in coming years, and also highlights and statistics from this first half that has been dominated by and large by Rider, up by 12.
And you can read John Dunn's lips. That's exactly what he just said. You know, we played this poorly. We're still only down 12 points. Stay solid defensively, and then don't turn the basketball over. Nick Leon as the point guard, you can't force something that's not there. Let things happen. They've just made things way too easy for the Rider Bronx by turning it over.
St. Peter's averages 16 turnovers per game. They are almost at that level with 14 here in the first half.
And 16's an ugly number.
Yep.
For a game, 14 and a half, it's amazing that they are just down by 12.
Thompson being proactive again.
And when he plays with that type of energy, boy, he is hard to guard. As we said, he's got such great size for his position. What are you going to guard him with? You're going to guard him with another guard? Well, he'll take you inside. You're going to guard him with a post player, and then all of a sudden he's going to take you out onto the perimeter.
Well, he's the 4th all-time leading scorer in Rider University history. Ahead of him on the list at number 3 is older brother Jason Thompson, now of the Sacramento Kings. Nice drive by Beelan. More control that time.
Beelan, a guy that's had real good success against Rider in their 2 games. But when Ryan Thompson is aggressive like this, catching, putting the ball to the floor, being physical, finishing strong, even when he's missed shots, he has been the aggressor. And when he does that, they're a much better team. When they were in a funk through the middle of the season, he was deferring instead of doing what you need to do as the best player, and that's be dominant.
And he has had some big games down the stretch this season, including a 38-point performance, his career high in Bracket Busters, February 20th at Hofstra. So far here this afternoon, Thompson's got 9. Mike Ringgold leads all scorers with 10.
And he is posting strong inside. 4 out and 1 in, trying to give Ringgold room to maneuver. And what he's done is he's really put pressure on the St. Peter's defense, and he's forced them to foul. And usually that's a good strategy. A little hack-a-shack against Ringgold, but as we've shown you, he's been much better from the foul line so far here today than he's been all season.
That's a tough matchup on the low post for Jerron Beelan, first-year Division I player, a transfer from Monroe Community College in the Rochester area. And even though size-wise he is very similar to Ringgold on that post, Ringgold is so quick and so shifty and so able to go left or go right and has a variety of moves. He is a tough guy to stop down low.
Yeah, you don't see many guys that play the game like Mike Ringgold.
Another terrible bit of spacing. Ooh, that pass intended, I believe, for Nick Leon, but it was whistling by the ear of Beelan, who instinctively reached up for it. It goes out of bounds, and that's turnover number 15. We are in a hockey arena here. We need to put where you have shots on goal on a certain. We need turnovers. The way they're piling up for St. Peter's, it's the only statistic to talk about when you talk about this game in the Peacocks. There you see the number. It is out of control for St. Peter's. Tenth team foul against St. Peter's, and so Gadsden will shoot 2. Gadsden averaging over 11 points and 7.5 rebounds per game. Sophomore out of Philadelphia. And he has the body and the look of a player who, once Ryan Thompson graduates and moves on, it could be his team next year, although keep in mind Justin Robinson will be back for his senior year next season, but you would think that Gadsden could really blossom into a monster over the next 2 years.
He's got that scorer's mentality, and as well, much like Ryan Thompson, he's a tough matchup because he can take you into the post and punish you with his size, but he's also got skills to stretch the defense out and force you to guard him on the perimeter. My goodness gracious, might as well throw it to me over here. I mean, that's not even close. 16 turnovers. I mean, St. Peter's, every time they come up with a stop and try to get themselves back in a ball game, John Dunn's team, talk about shooting yourself in the foot.
I mean, are the guys not wearing the same uniforms? I mean, these turnovers are incredible.
I mean, literally,
nobody there.
Nobody. The manager's at the end of the Rider bench. That's the guy who's going to be able to stand up and catch that one. As we said, 16 on the season's not a good number at taking care of the basketball. 16 already here. It's amazing that they still are only down by 14.
Well, good news for St. Peter's. They likely won't get the ball back on offense for another turnover here in the half. Thompson blocked from behind by Samuels, so Rider will keep it with 6.6 on the clock. Now Rider came into this tournament with a chip on its shoulder, and so far they have played well, like a team that wants to be cutting down the nets on Monday. Into Thompson, in traffic, able to get the shot off and the foul. Samuels called for his second personal foul, freshman from Windsor, Connecticut. Coming off the bench these days for St. Peter's. And it's a two-shot foul for Ryan Thompson.
And you can't bail him out in that situation. Shot clock winding down. You want to be aggressive on the defensive challenge, but you can't go put him to the line. Fouling's not good defense, and too many times you see the defense help the offense out by putting them to the line.
Thompson now 10 points. See if St. Peter's can get off a shot. It'll count. Had it gone, but that desperation shot by Jenkins was much like his perimeter jump shots, way off the mark, and just a puzzling first 20 minutes for John Dunn's Peacocks.
They got to figure out a way to just get shots up on the rim. Talk about turnover problems. My goodness gracious.
Our score at halftime. Now, the encouraging stat that I can throw out there for you, Coach Kennedy, for
there you go. I need one right now.
Is the fact that twice this year they have turned the ball over 23 times, including once back in mid-January against the same Rider Bronx, and they won that game 77-66. But the difference in that game, as compared to the first 20 minutes here so far, they completely dominated the glass, and they also shot the ball much, much better than they have so far here today. Again, you have to shoot a good percentage when you're turning the ball over at that rate. You don't get nearly as many shots as you normally would.
And the other big key was Wesley Jenkins had 26 points in that ball game, and you saw in that Star Watch graphic a very quiet first 20 minutes of basketball here today.
Now Bacon at the free throw line after Mike Ringgold picked up his second personal foul. And there you see the junior from Maplewood, New Jersey, out of the powerhouse St. Benedict's program in northern New Jersey. Bacon with a pair of free throws. Actually played at Columbia High School before transferring to St. Benedict's, and he has been a pillar for the rebirth of St. Peter's basketball over the last few years under the direction of head coach John Dunn.
As you said, coming out of St. Benedict's, one of the top high school programs in the country. Danny Hurley does such a great job of preparing guys to not only get to the next level, but be productive players at the next level.
Yvonne Raymond picks up the personal, his second. Starting five for St. Peter's in their home whites because they are the higher seed, number 4 seed. Raymond, Bacon, Conley, Leon, and Jenkins. Here's Gadsden off the inbound. Bad miss, just barely grazed the side of the rim, and the young man who shoots in the 20 percentile range from beyond the arc shows that form right there.
And for me, you look at his numbers, he's taken over 100 threes on the season. Even though he can stretch out and the southpaw can knock down some threes, to me, get himself inside, attack the rim, use his body. At times, I think he settles for too many threes.
At times, do players view themselves differently than other people view them?
Oh, definitely. And you know what all players do now? They all vision themselves as guards. Nobody wants to be a big guy. It's not fun to go score it inside like Ryan Bacon just tried to do it. So they look at themselves as being able to prove to people that they can play out on the perimeter. And too many times, just play to your strength. Use your strength to go score it by getting yourself inside.
If you remember the first year when the three-point line was put into college basketball back in 1986-87, the two teams that went to the championship game that year, Indiana and Syracuse, really each only had one or two players who ever took a three-point shot. You had Steve Alford and you had Keith Smart for Indiana, and for Syracuse you had Greg Monroe, and that was it because the other guys didn't fashion themselves as three-point shooters. They had never been encouraged to shoot from the perimeter, but it's completely changed in the generation since.
Yeah, but when you look at some good teams, you'll see them pound the basketball inside. Think of Siena, who we'll see in our next quarterfinal game. Ryan Rossiter, you know what? Ryan Rossiter could make threes. I mean, he can step out. He's a face-up guy. He doesn't take any threes. He stays inside and just dominates there. Same with Alex Franklin. He's a guy who's got skills to step outside. But instead of doing that, they go and they establish some inside presence so that your guards can score it on the outside.
St. Peter's will keep possession as Conley lost the ball. We take another look at the fast break with Gadsden putting up the running shot. Kind of an awkward shot, and he got the roll.
Want to get out and gallop. I'm not quite sure that's the way they wanted to finish it. But when they get pace, that's when they're at their best.
Whoa, there was a swing of the fist by Jenkins that caught Penn right in front of the officials, and there was no call. He got him in the ribcage.
Frustration. It's been a frustrating night for the Peacocks, but you can't let your frustrations get the better of you, especially when you're as important to your team as Wesley Jenkins was.
Third foul on Brandon Penn, and so Conley will go to the line. Yeah, Jenkins really didn't do much in that first half. Only 3 total points on 1 of 5 shooting, so we can understand his frustration, both individually and collectively. Conley hits the first.
Well, Conley attacking the rim and doing a good job of leaning in to create the contact.
Conley with a pair, the redshirt freshman out of Newport News, Virginia, and out of Warwick High School. 2.5 minutes gone here in the second half. The winner of this advances to the MAAC semifinals tomorrow to face the winner of our next quarterfinal, which will pit Manhattan against Siena. Ryan Thompson fouled on his drive to the paint.
I'm not sure how many guys can guard Ryan Thompson when he's playing with that type of reckless abandon. When he's attacking, when he's being the aggressor, with his size and his quickness and his ball handling, it's really hard to keep him out of the paint.
Third foul on Yvonne Raymond, so he goes to the bench. Lob inside, there's Thompson, misfiring, kept alive again, and Jenkins with a rebound. High post Bacon, Conley begging for the ball in the low post. Instead Bacon, nice work on the up and under with the left hand. Bacon into double figures, and he is helping to spearhead St. Peter's in its bid to get back in the ball game. Open look, Robinson, nothing but net.
Oh, great drive and kick again. Hard to keep Ryan Thompson out of the paint when he gets there. He's got options, his size to score and finish himself, or what's a better option than kicking it out to the second best three-point shooter in the MAAC, to Justin Robinson at 45% on the season.
Here's a catch and shoot at the other end. Jenkins had it halfway down, but it ran down. So Robinson, one of the co-captains on this Rider team, turns it over. Here comes St. Peter's with numbers. Thompson hustled back and blocked the shot. Again, another blocked shot. Against the odds, here comes Rider back the other way, and Robinson with a chance for 3.
Well, credit Ryan Thompson for great hustle and great defensive play. Not only challenging the first shot, but coming up with a second challenge. Right there, hustling back to get himself involved with the play. Comes up with the block. And there's the quickness of Justin Robinson. He's not just a catch-and-shoot three-point shooter. Terrific quickness, especially out in the open floor.
Also a terrific free throw shooter. He's had stretches, Rob, this year of 26 straight free throws made and 22 straight. Not surprisingly, 89% on the year. Yeah, he is a tough combination. He's played for his homeland, England, in the British national team games. in Spain and Turkey this past summer, and he is not just your prototypical point guard, not your prototypical shooting guard.
Yep.
He's a nice hybrid who, like you say, has also got the quicks to get past you.
And Tommy Dempsey said that stretch with the national team from Great Britain, even though he didn't end up making the team but getting right to the last cut, he said that really helped his confidence this past summer.
And there's Robinson knocking the ball away from Leon out of bounds. We've got our first media timeout here in the second half. Tommy Dempsey and the Ryder Bronx enjoying a 17-point lead. Back in Albany, Ryder with a 17-point lead over St. Peter's at the Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships presented by Pepsi Max. Doug Sherman along with Rob Kennedy and Vin Parisi. And the MAAC All-Decade team has been announced. And now, MAAC fans, log on to Facebook.com/MAAC Sports to vote for who you think is the MAAC Player of the Decade. And the nominees include Brett Harvey from Loyola, Jason Thompson from Ryder, and Keedron Clark from St. Peter's. And again, go to Facebook.com/MAAC Sports and vote today. Nice pull-up. Trying to get Jenkins going. He's now got 5 points, the junior out of Newark. These two teams split during the regular season. Each one on the other's home court. The Bronx in their win shot 58% from the floor, and in their loss shot only 37%. Ringgold fouled on the putback. Let's send it back over to Vin.
John Dunn last time in the St. Peter's Peacocks huddle was telling his team to stop looking at the clock. They're down 15 right now, 40-25. They were down 17 at the first media of the second half. He wants them to start playing this basketball game in 4-minute intervals, guys. Stop looking at the scoreboard. Stop looking at the clock. Chip away at it little by little and just play your game. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Vin, and that seems to be a common theme that you hear from coaches, particularly in this sort of circumstance, that don't try to bite off more than you can chew at any one time.
Especially once you dig yourselves a 16-point deficit, the only way you can do it is by chipping away, and you can't get it all back in one play. And if you can all of a sudden break it down into those 4-minute segments because of the media timeouts, then all of a sudden, if you start making some progress, then you start saying, you know what, this is manageable to get ourselves back in the ballgame.
Yep, and that was the type of shot right there under control by Beelan that he's comfortable with. Now with 8 points, St. Peter's back within 14. Ringgold, the high man in the ballgame with 11, kicks it back out to Gadsden.
And he is a good passer out of the double teams. Better post defense by Bacon.
And then Bacon going coast to coast.
Oh, you got to sit on his right hand. If you do that, he can't handle it with his left. Anytime you're in transition defense and you got a guy who's not comfortable putting the ball to the deck, you got to sit on their strong hand.
Well, Bacon working on another potential double-double. Off the steal, going coast to coast. He's got a dozen. And the Peacocks making it a ball game perhaps, down 41-29.
St. Peter's College, success is a team effort. St. Peter's College, education one student at a time.
We're back at the 2010 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships here in Albany, New York. And a look at some of the other upcoming conference championships. And which one would you most want to be at, Rob?
Well, you know, certainly tennis would be interesting. Look at the venue there in Flushing at the USTA National Tennis Center. I'm down at Disney. I was looking my way down to see if they had any at Disney. The MAAC utilizes the Wide World of Sports venue for a lot of their championships, so I'm picking tennis.
I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, short commute for you. You get to stay at home. Nice give and go.
Ringgold and Thompson have been doing that together for years.
That's what we were just talking about a couple of minutes ago. Ringgold, a very good passer, whether a double team comes. And that's one of the things that John Dunn was worried about. If you send a double at Ringgold. He can pick you apart by finding guys out on the perimeter. That time, finding a cutter.
Now Ringgold, a 3-year starter for Ryder. Ryan Thompson, a 4-year starter. They certainly seem like they know where the other is going.
So here, the little double team as Hall doesn't commit enough to the double. Instead, just tries to hedge and get a hand in there, help and recover. And by the time he does that, because of Ringgold's passing ability, Thompson got himself an easy one.
4th foul on Penn, so he takes a seat. Gadsden comes back in for the Bronx. 3-guard look for Ryder right now with Mansell back in the game along with Ryan Thompson and Justin Robinson.
And Ryder showing zone. They had good success out of the zone in the first half.
Brandon Hall couldn't get the roll. Beelan working hard, or Bacon rather, and he will go to the line to shoot 2.
Guys getting tangled up inside. Justin Robinson needs to be careful right there. Beelan came back at him. Those guys were tangled up, interlocked arms. And then Beelan pushed him away. The officials slow to get involved. But that's where Justin Robinson, you got to be careful. Even though he pushed you, get away.
3rd foul on Ringgold, and now the officials will discuss the situation as Robinson, as you say, Rob, needs to use a little bit more caution, a little more discretion, because it seemed like they had been separated and perhaps it could have resolved itself, and he took umbrage with the extra shove, and there you see the interlocked arms.
Interlocked arms, guys going at it, and there Beelan jumping up. I said officials slow to get in. I take it back. Wally Ratecki was right in there. Then Justin Robinson coming back. You know, you've got yourself a 14-point lead. The last thing you want to do is do something that all of a sudden gets St. Peter's fired up, or put yourself in a tough position where you may have to sit down for a sec.
There's a good look at Ryan Bacon. Turned down recruiting overtures from Siena, Rhode Island, Toledo, Ryder to sign with St. Peter's and be one of the building blocks. He actually signed with Delaware originally before having his plans changed and go to St. Peter's. Robinson. Long rebound comes down to Wes Jenkins.
Got to be careful. That time it almost looked like he was just going to go 1-and-1 against Beeline, as if to carry over the little extracurricular activity we saw inside. Now both guys just playing as if they're the only guys on the floor. You got to let it go, forget about it, get your teammates involved.
13:10 remaining in regulation. Ryder has led from the start. A turnover-plagued first half put St. Peter's in an immediate hole. Long 3 try again. Mansell is now 0 for 2 from beyond the arc, and both of them, Rob, have been from 25 feet away. Leon no. Gadsden the rebound.
You don't get an extra point because you're that far beyond the 3-point line.
No 4-point play.
No 4-point play. One thing to try and hide behind that handoff and let it be a ball screen, but instead, you know, you can't be at the MAAC logo and think that you're in range.
Gadsden back inside to Ringgold. To the right hand, off the window and in, and a pump of the fist.
Oh, excited. You know, some guys have that jump hook where it's the nice extension up top. He kind of takes it right from his hip at times. As we've said, he's like one of those pitchers that's got a different delivery point. You know, can take it up top, throw a little sidearm, a little junk, and that's what he does.
Bacon sheds himself of Ringgold and gets the easy 2.
No, that time Ringgold flopped. Good officiating not to buy into it. Not enough contact to send him to the floor.
Now, Rob, our 2 true post players in the ball game really picking it up. Bacon now with 16, Ringgold with 13. In spite of Bacon starting to sizzle, still frustrating here for St. Peter's as we head to break. Peacocks down by 12. Story of the day has been turnovers and missed shots for St. Peter's, and Ringgold just keeps coming at you for the Bronx. And the frustration continues for head coach John Dunn. U.S. Olympic snowboard team here.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not far from Lake
Olympics
Placid.
are over. I forgot my skull cap.
No, I'm just kidding. I think that's
it's a warm day in Albany.
It
Come
is.
on. It's
balmy,
beautiful out there.
The balmy capital of New York State.
Yeah, Pearl
Street's
Street's got some activity going on out there.
Well, will they and the Siena Saints be here Monday night? Those are just three cool dudes. That's not the U.S. Olympic bobsled team or snowboard team. MAAC championship game will be here 7 o'clock on ESPN2.
Well, now they're excited. All of a sudden they realized, must have looked up, saw themselves on the Jumbotron. Little fist pump, much like we saw from Mike Ringgold on that jump hook. I mean, he's amazing. It comes from so many different angles. You saw on that replay, just about at his shoulder. Sometimes he'll come up top, and much like a pitcher, who doesn't have that fastball but can figure out ways to throw strikes and keep you off balance, he does that on the offensive end.
Perhaps like a Jack Armstrong, who pitched at Rider University back in the 80s and helped the Cincinnati Reds to the World Series championship in 1990.
No, he could bring some heat. He wasn't throwing junk.
Gadsden connects with a shot clock down.
Now late in the shot clock, you're St. Peter's trying to fight your way back in. You have a good defensive possession, and then you let them score that late and that easily because there wasn't a closeout to bother the three.
Well, St. Peter's, the number 4 seed in the tournament, trying to avoid what would be a mild upset, at least on paper. They've trailed by double figures almost from the beginning. 48-33, Rider with a lead in the basketball.
Yeah, certainly an upset by seed numbers, but I saw your bracket as well. Both you and I thought that Rider would be the team to beat in this ball game, despite the fact that St. Peter's had such a good regular season with their 11 wins.
Thompson fouled by Beelan. He had good position again as he and Ringgold work in tandem in the paint.
As we said, they play good defense. You see Gadsden stepping back a little late on the closeout, late in the shot clock, and those are backbreakers. You know, play good defense. John Dunn's team, you think if we could just get a couple of stops, just get something going, and then Gadsden hits a three that late in the shot clock, that really hurts you.
Rob, that foul on Jerron Beelan, his 4th, with 10:31 remaining. Beelan has been a bit of a spark, certainly an energy guy for St. Peter's, and they certainly could use him on the floor, and he remains on the floor to play with those 4 personals.
Well, nothing to lose right now. You know, there's no tomorrow. You lose this game, you're not there. And Beelan, a guy that has had real good success against Rider. That nearly backfired as he was involved with some contact inside, but the foul go the other way against Gadsden. But Beelan with 2 terrific games in the regular season against Rider. 15 points in one game, 17 in the other. It's strange how sometimes guys just have a good matchup against a particular team.
Rob, that foul on Gadsden, his 2nd, and the 5th against Rider here in the second half. Jenkins, who has been quiet for the most part here this afternoon, misses again. Conley misses the putback. Raymond with a 3rd opportunity for St. Peter's, and he will shoot 2.
When you play zone, you got to rebound out of the zone, and one of the things that you got to be careful about playing zone against this St. Peter's team is on the offensive glass, clearly one of the strengths of the Peacocks.
Gadsden picks up his 3rd foul. And you see Yvonne Raymond, a freshman out of Maplewood, New Jersey, at the line. He has now started the last 7 games in place of Stephen Samuels. This is a St. Peter's team that of its last 10 games, Rob, alternated win-loss, 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 win-loss. They've got to string together 3 straight wins here this weekend in Albany if they want to get that automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. 1 for 2 from the line for Raymond, which is just about his season percentage. And so St. Peter's back on defense, down 14. Ryan Thompson and John Thompson on the floor together, not related. This is Jonathan Thompson with Gadsden and Robinson, and Mike Ringgold, who flashes to the head of the key, sets the screen. And now the Rider offense looking for a good shot. Indeed, they get it underneath to Ringgold, and he'll have to go to the line and earn the 2 points.
Oh, patience, not panicking, getting deep in the shot clock. See the frustration on John Dunn's face, and that's pretty much the look he's had all ball game. Late in the shot clock, not panicking. Smart play to drive the basketball inside. The extra bounce to get to the other side of the rim. And that pretty much sums it up if you're a Peacock fan or a Peacock coach.
Ringgold now 5 of 10 from the line today.
The thing that amazed me getting ready for this ball game, Doug, was the fact that Ringgold didn't go to the foul line in either of the last 2 games. Now, I can understand against Siena, they don't foul anybody. But in the next game against Canisius, it's a close game. Canisius had a 5-point lead late. How do you not put Ringgold to the line the way that he shoots it?
Now, so far here today, he's much better than his season percentage of 31%. He is 6 out of 11. Leon fires and hits.
Well, that's one thing that St. Peter's can do. They've got 2 guys in Nick Leon and Wesley Jenkins that can throw in some threes. Ryder playing some zone, trying to milk some clock on the offensive end, force them to take some time. But the only way maybe St. Peter's can get back into it is by those guys knocking down some threes.
Well, that was their first made 3-point shot of the afternoon. Thompson, no. Beelan the rebound, and here comes Leon, who just knocked down the perimeter shot a moment ago. Beelan thought about it, driving on Gadsden, and he banks it in.
And that's why you keep him in the ball game with the 4 fouls. Bit of a gamble, but good job by John Dunn saying, you know what, we got to be all in here right now. You got nothing to worry about. And Beelan once again in double figures against the Bronx, the 3rd time in 3 games.
Yeah, the former star at Maloney High School in Connecticut into double figures.
Imagine if they took care of the basketball in the first half.
Wow.
You know, didn't turn it over here in the second half, but just too many turnovers in that first half. You got to wonder if it was just too deep of a hole to get out of.
And again, Ryder will go to the free throw line after holding the basketball for 30 seconds in the shot clock and then being fouled. 3rd foul on Conley. Remember, he picked up 2 quick ones early in the ball game.
Good ball fake by Beelan to get Gadsden off the floor and then make him pay for it by leaning in, creating some contact, and finishing.
So Ringgold back to the line where moments ago he hit 1 out of 2. We saw 3 or 4 free throws in the first half that looked pretty good. I mean, it's still a rather unorthodox, nice way to put it, free throw delivery, but the ball came off soft and had nice rotation, but he has reverted back to form here in the second half.
Well, one thing about percentages, they're percentages because if you stay with it long enough. That's why baseball managers are always playing percentages, and you got to put them to the line. If he gets you that deep in the floor, you know, he catches it that deep, you got to start thinking about hack-a-shack.
Here goes Bacon. He leads St. Peter's with 16. Couldn't get the shot up on the rim. Raymond fighting hard inside.
That's what they got to do. They got to keep fighting. They got to find those extra possessions. So as poorly as they played, look what we got. All of a sudden, St. Peter's back into the ball game down 9.
And Rob, this is the closest the ball game has been since 9-3. Wow. Ringgold called for steps. And so the St. Peter's defensive pressure has got John Dunn and the Peacock bench thinking maybe we can pull this out and make our way to the MAAC semifinals. Good look at the Times Union Center here in Albany as it continues to fill up. Our next quarterfinal game will pit the hometown Siena Saints against the Manhattan Jaspers, and a crowd in excess of 10,000 is expected for this afternoon session. And there you see some of the folks in green filling things up here at the TU Center. Now, part of this ball game, as Ryder sees its once sizable lead cut down to 9, is defensively, Ryder's got to make changes here, Rob.
Well, they got to be aggressive, and by doing that, you leave some opportunities. St. Peter's almost taken advantage of that, but they played a lot of zone, and that's a smart play, especially when you're in a tournament where you're thinking about having to win 3 games in 3 days. You got to conserve some of that energy, and certainly the second half, St. Peter's shooting the basketball a little bit better, but amazingly enough that Ryder with only 15 shot attempts so far here in the second half.
All right, let's head back over to Vin. He's got some more thoughts from eavesdropping on the huddle.
Obviously, guys, St. Pete's has cut into this lead making it a 9-point ball game right now. In the last timeout, Tom Dempsey was really getting on his guards. He wants his guards to get in and help rebound the basketball, help those big guys down low. He also wants his guards to not run with their heads turned back on defense. Sprint up the sidelines and find Leon and Wesley Jenkins right away. And in terms of offense, he thinks that they've gone stagnant because they've been standing around. Back to you guys.
Thank you, Ben. Indeed, that is, as you see, off the inbound, but couldn't cash it in.
Well, smart play. Anytime the defender turns his back, you can take advantage of that. Going back to what Vin was talking about, I think they've been stagnant at both ends of the floor. Remember in the first half, we saw them come out, little pressure defense, trapping out a couple of timeouts, forcing those turnovers. They've been complacent a bit on the defensive end. They got to pick back up the intensity on the defensive end that they showed at the beginning of this ball game.
And again, St. Peter's turned the basketball over 16 times in the first half. So far here in the second half, just one. Bacon fouled by Gadsden. And so the 6'7" junior forward will go to the line to shoot two.
Well, trying to establish the paint. We talked about a couple of those keys coming in. Who is going to own the paint? Well, certainly it was Ryder that owned the paint in the first half, whether it was getting into the paint on layups in transition off turnovers or post-ups inside by Mike Ringgold. But John Dunn's team starting to reestablish Ryan Bacon inside in the post. Now with 17 points, you see 6 of 9 because they've gotten him good shots inside.
Now the biggest comeback in this tournament in recent memory that I can think of was Siena a couple of years ago, down 18 to Loyola, coming back and winning. Bigger deficit here in this ball game, but St. Peter's continues to chip away, down now by 8. Actually, Ryder's largest lead was 18 earlier in the ball game, so the exact same scenario in terms of the difference. And 10, St. Peter's do today what Siena did a couple of years ago. Foul on the entry pass, whistled against Bacon. Second foul on Bacon. We've got 2 players on the floor playing with 4 fouls. Brandon Penn's got 4 personal fouls. And Jerron Beelan for St. Peter's has 4 personal fouls. Ringgold knows, so while it hasn't been a true hack-a-shack, John Dunn's Peacocks continually put Ringgold to the line, and at best he's been going 1 for 2 here in the second half.
And you'll take that right now if you're St. Peter's. Anytime he catches the ball in the post, you can't allow him to score it. You got to go make him earn it from the foul line. That's why the one thing, though, that John Dunn doesn't have a whole lot of is front court depth. Do they have enough bodies to be able to give up those fouls?
I'll tell you what, we've got ourselves a ball game. Forget that 18-point deficit. St. Peter's can cut it down to 5. Beelan fouled, and he will shoot 2. We're here at the Times Union Center in Albany at the 2010 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships. Doug Sherman, Rob Kennedy, Vin Parisi, as we take another look at the foul call.
A great job of establishing that inside position. Beelan, not a guy that's got great size, but when you move into the post, coming off the high post, diving down hard, and then the good bounce pass. If you're going to throw the ball into the post, put it to the floor. One of the lost arts of basketball, feeding the post.
By the way, Rob, that foul was called on Ringgold, and that is his 4th personal foul. Bacon off the miss, can't get the roll, but he gets it the second time.
Oh, he's so quick off his feet. Nobody attacks the offensive glass better in this league than Ryan Bacon. And now all of a sudden the crowd's starting to get into it. The Peacocks have picked up some fans by the fact that they've been able to fight their way back into the ball game.
Robinson, the air ball. Penn knocked it out of bounds, and it's St. Peter's ball with the Peacocks back within 6.
You see Tommy Dempsey saying, come on now, let's go. Regather yourself, and this is the end of the floor where they've got to do it. We saw great defense and great defensive energy from Ryder early on. It's been a long time since we've seen that.
Rob, is it time for Ryder to use another timeout?
I'll tell you what, they score here. It certainly is. You're right on that edge of whether or not you take a timeout. The 12-3 St. Peter's run has put them in a tough spot, but you got to just lock down and come up with the stop.
Two free throws coming up off of the foul, and Raymond will shoot two, and that was on Mike Ringgold, number 5. And so the interior catalyst for the Rider Bronx is fouled out of the ball game with 5:17 on the clock.
But watch what Nick Leon does right here. Freeze it. Little back dribble to get himself space. Let it run right now. And by doing that, he stretches the defense out. You've got too much ground to cover. When you are double teamed, back dribble, give yourself some space to be able to see what's going on. Get the ball out, the extra pass, put the pressure on the defense. Ringgold reaching over just a bit, comes up with a foul. First half, Leon was in the trap. We saw how many deflections because he was in the trap. Back dribble, create some space, and now you can survey the situation and find the open man.
There you see the frustration on Ringgold's face. Now let's take a look at our MAAC championship winners as we've got a break in the action for the foul out. And congratulations to all the athletes who compete in the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference, and especially those who come up as champions here in the 2009-2010 calendar year. So with the momentum completely swung in favor of St. Peter's, you've got Yvonne Raymond at the line, only a 58% foul shooter. And again, the big story in that last sequence, the foul out of Mike Ringgold.
And I'm not sure he can be on the floor in that situation with 4 fouls. When you've got the lead, it's one thing to keep a guy like Beelan on the floor when you're down and you've got to put everything on the line. But with Ringgold, when you've got the lead, why not protect him and sit him down for a while? Not only do they lose his interior scoring, although they're hacking him each time, he's one of their best defenders. So even if you get in offensive-defensive situations, substitutions late, you take away your best defender because now he's fouled out.
Well, that time at the line, St. Peter's didn't cash in with the 2 free throws, but they did effectively get Ringgold out of the ball game. 5 minutes remaining, 5:01 with the whistle and the foul.
And Raymond with a hand check right in front of the officials. And that is his 5th personal foul. And so he will now have to sit down. So missed opportunity for the Peacocks. He misses 2 foul shots and then comes back and picks up the foul.
So 5 personals for Raymond, the freshman out of Maplewood, New Jersey, after having just missed a couple of free throws that could have been big for St. Peter's. The Peacocks have cut an 18-point deficit down to 6. It's the Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships presented by Pepsi Max, our first quarterfinal between these Garden State rivals. Doug Sherman, Rod Kennedy, and Vin Parisi joining us here this weekend on the MAAC Television Network. And there you see this side of the bracket. The winner of this ball game gets either top-seeded Siena or number 9 seed Manhattan, which played its best game of the season last night to advance to the first round.
Put up 94 points, got to the foul line, and for a stretch there, Rico Pickett was just unstoppable in the first half. He had 23 in the first half, and when you got a guy like Pickett and a guy like Darryl Crawford, 2 guys that can really score it, a dangerous team for the Saints in their first ball game here in the MAAC tournament.
Yeah, Crawford went for 16 and 10 in that ball game last night, and Pickett finished with 33 after the 23 in the first half.
And at times, he's a guy who makes tough guarded shots, so you do your job defensively, and it doesn't matter when he gets himself on a roll.
And as Loyola coach Jimmy Patso said after that ball game last night, as Leon puts up the tough shot with the shot clock down, Pickett's the kind of guy that once he gets going, look out.
You got to get a better shot on that possession if you're St. Peter's. Nick Leon got himself into the paint, but off balance. You get there, and you don't have a good shot. Find a better shot for a teammate.
Gadsden didn't have a clean catch off the nice look by Thompson, and that allowed the defense to stop his shot. Foul underneath against Penn, and we have our 3rd player disqualified. Penn now with 5 personal fouls.
No, it's been physical. One thing about the officials, they've been consistent on how they've called the ball game. A few ticky-tackies. Anytime there's been a bump in the post, there's been a whistle. And so you, as a player and as a coach, you got to adjust to that.
And we have seen a couple of occasions in this ball game where there was the potential for a foul to escalate, and they've done a nice job of suppressing that.
Yep.
But with that, you get all of these foul outs. But in a game that, as you say, Rob, has been as physical as this one, the officials have made sure nothing has gotten out of control.
Now Brandon Penn with his size sitting on the bench, as well as Mike Ringgold, arguably their best defender. And so now, here's where if you're St. Peter's, keep feeding it inside. Throw it into Bacon as much as possible, and then get a little inside out if you can. He's been the guy who's had the hot hand here in the second half, and Ryan Bacon has certainly done a great job of helping to get St. Peter's back into the ball game, but they've got to help themselves from the foul line.
Now Bacon only a 62% foul shooter. He is within 3 of his career high of 23 points, which came against Manhattan back on January 31st.
And St. Peter's as a team, not a very good foul shooting team. 66% on the season, 9th in the MAAC, and so 4 straight missed foul shots. You're down 8, you hit those, you got yourself right back into the ball game. Can't afford to miss those foul shots, and you got to figure you're going to have a lot more opportunities as both teams over the double bonus.
Well, even though we're under 4 minutes, that timeout was called by Tommy Dempsey to make sure they set things up the way he wants to in their offensive set. And what is Coach telling his club right now, you think, Rob?
Well, you got to figure that the basketball is going to go through Ryan Thompson on this possession. He's got to get a touch and then play through him.
Time now to look at the Pepsi MAAC slam of the ball game. And for that, we go back to Mike Ringgold. Maybe got away with a little hook there, but
a little chin up. Why not?
Why not?
Quick spin. He wanted to make sure he got himself the Pepsi MAAC slam of the game. Wanted to remind everybody of it with a little extra grab and hold.
However, Ringgold's afternoon is done because he has fouled out with 15 points. He fouled out just over a minute ago, and so Ryder, trying to hang on to what was once an 18-point lead, now down to 8.
You see just 7 of 15 from the foul line, and he has worked on his foul shooting. It's something they work on each and every day of practice, but at some point in time, he's got to be able to do a better job.
How about the backdoor finish?
Let's take that back. That should have been the Pepsi MAAC slam of the game. Great timeout, even better execution, though, coming out of that timeout.
Well, I'd say that was a pretty well utilized timeout. They got what they were looking for. Bacon answers back. And now a timeout called immediately by St. Peter's.
Well, not quite Kobe-esque. Did you see that play last night where he threw it off the board and went and got it?
Yep.
On the other end, as we said, maybe we were a little too quick with our slam of the game. Great backdoor, overplayed as Jenkins is there, but that's a set play. You drive at the guy, a la Princeton. Pete Carrill, the guy that made that play so famous, and it starts with dribbling at the man, because what it does is it freezes the defender out on the wing in denial defense, and then backdoor, and you make that play by putting the ball to the floor on a bounce pass.
Interesting, this Rider University campus just a few miles away from the Princeton campus outside of Trenton, New Jersey, and certainly we saw a taste of that right there. When you've got a finisher like Thompson on the wing, why not? Although, does he have some issue with his hand or wrist? You see Thompson flexing that hand and wrist, and you would know this better than I would.
Yeah.
When you slam, sometimes your hand or wrist can get hurt on the rim.
Absolutely, no question. Slamming the table, that is. Slamming a clipboard, but may have hurt his hand on that thunderous dunk.
Now let's see how that plays out as Thompson inbounds with 3:29 remaining in regulation. Trouble to find a teammate, has to use another timeout. Better do that than turn it over at your end of the floor. But now Tommy Dempsey will have to call things over again, and that gives us an opportunity to again take a look at the dunk and pay attention to the right hand and wrist of Ryan Thompson.
Well, here's this nice bounce pass as he threads the needle, and Ryan Thompson going strong. And look at Jonathan Thompson getting off the floor as well. Now that's attacking the rim. Threw it down hard. He knew he was going with some authority. The question is whether or not he hurt his right hand. We certainly saw him coming out of the last timeout, shaking it. Looked like he was a bit bothered.
Didn't appear to be anything different in terms of a dunk, but I would think on any dunk, anytime your hand or wrist with force is hitting that iron, you've got the potential to hurt yourself. You obviously don't have a lot of meat on your wrist and hand, and so that could be bone on rim, and you never know. Near turnover. Ryder fortunate to keep possession.
Well, that was a loose ball that they just got to a little quicker.
Foul before the shot. And that takes us to our last media timeout in our first quarterfinal. So we'll step away with Ryder on top. We'll find out our first semifinalist coming up after this timeout. The 2010 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships are brought to you by Pepsi Max. Maximum taste, maximum energy, 0 calories. FYE strictly for your entertainment. Dunkin' Donuts. America runs on Dunkin'. And by the 2010 Citizens Bank MAAC Basketball Championships, where magic happens. Back in Albany, Ryan Thompson now with 17 points as Ryder is trying to hang on to what was once an 18-point lead. But St. Peter's, after turning the ball over 16 times in the first half, has just 1 turnover here in the second half and trying for the improbable comeback victory. But they need to get more offensively out of Jenkins, who continues to stay cold. He is now 2 of 10 from the floor.
Well, Ryder clearly has won the battle of backcourt. You knew that was key coming into the ball game. St. Peter's kicked it around throughout the first half with those 16 turnovers. Doing a better job taking care of it, obviously, here in the second half.
Mansell with his 3rd bad 3 miss of the ball game. Beelan behind his back for a pretty finish. And a timeout, St. Peter's.
And a bad miss allows you to get out and run a little bit easier. And St. Peter's able to attack the rim.
12 points for Beelan, 22 for Bacon to lead all scorers. Ryder's got 4 players in double figures, but one of them, Ringgold, is fouled out.
Well, Beelan, nice move to put it behind his back. Usually don't want to do that in transition because of guys running up your back, but it worked for John Dunn's team, and now they've got to get up in full court pressure. They've got to do now what Ryder did in the first half. That's cause turnovers and get some points off turnovers.
Well, Rob, this doesn't apply to you, but for those watching, if you're between the ages of 5 and 12, make sure to sign up for the MAAC Dance Clinic tomorrow, March 7th, here at the Times Union Center from 11 a.m. to noon. Participants in the clinic will perform during halftime of tomorrow's Women's Championship game. To register or for more information, you can go to the conference website, MAACsports.com.
Now, am I disqualified because of age or dancing ability? That's the big question.
Well, both. Yeah, both.
Go with both. Yeah, I'm not Digger. I may have the highlighters, but I don't have his dance moves. That's for sure.
There is Richard Digger Phelps, an alumnus of what was then known as Ryder College, now Ryder University, class of 64, and obviously went on to greatness at Notre Dame after a brief stop at Fordham, where I just learned not long ago Denzel Washington played at Fordham, I believe, for Digger that year when Digger was there. If Denzel wasn't on the varsity, he was on the junior varsity.
Now Denzel's son, a freshman at the University of Pennsylvania, so a big basketball fan. Digger with the game day crew down at Cameron Indoor Stadium earlier today. He's thrown out some different names. Talked about Fairfield for a second. Talked about if the tournament expanded to 96 teams and some of the teams that might be in. Always a spirited discussion.
Foul on the inbound against Hall, and that will send Ryan Thompson to the foul line. Thompson, the 3rd most accurate foul shooter in the conference at 81%, a senior and a cool, calm customer, so certainly not the one you would choose to send to the line if that's what you're thinking. Down 8. Now, don't forget our second men's quarterfinal coming up next between Manhattan and Siena.
And if you're going to win close ball games, certainly a luxury for Tommy Dempsey when you know that your backcourt guys both nearly automatic from the foul line. Justin Robinson tops in the league from the line, and then as well Ryan Thompson, a guy that will convert, especially when they're important foul shots. Nick Leon quickly inside Bacon. Rebound Gadsden.
triple teamed, and then the foul is called. And that time, we've talked about it, Rob, over the years, the last couple of years, Gadsden doesn't always play big, but that time defensively and getting that rebound, he played big.
And when he does that, he's got a powerful body, and you can just see he's scratching the surface. And next year will be a big year for him because he's going to have an expanded offensive role. And certainly Justin Robinson coming back and a lot of the players coming back. Obviously, you lose a ton with all that Ryan Thompson can do, but Novar Gadsden in this offseason's really got to commit himself to getting a little bit stronger, a little bit more physical so that he can take advantage of that and be the powerful player and scorer that I think he can be in the MAAC.
Well, he's been compared by his head coach to Ryan Thompson in that he is an oversized guard. I mean, he's a big guy with guard type of skills. Gadsden listed at 6'7", 230, and in this league that typically means you're going to be down in the post, but Gadsden is much more comfortable out on the perimeter. Beelan gets it back. Ball stripped away by Robinson. And a whistle. An inadvertent whistle, it appears. And so, instead of a potential breakaway, Gary Tracy says, my fault, my fault.
Yep.
And they will make sure that Ryder has the ball on the sideline.
John Dunn will take that transition defense right there. That's about the only way they were going to stop the break.
Sell being chased. He's a good free throw shooter and gave the ball away, nearly gave it to the other team.
Well, that's why he's in the ball game. Hasn't missed a foul shot in the last 2 seasons. Doesn't get a whole lot of attempts from the line, but perfect last year and perfect again so far this year.
Again, Mike Ringgold is fouled out of the ball game for Ryder, so you don't have him on the floor when you're thinking about who to foul if you're St. Peter's. 5th foul on Beelan, so he is done for the afternoon. He's the 4th player to foul out of this ball game.
When you take a look at the St. Peter's bench, basically no seniors on this ball team, and so a lot will be coming back for John Dunn's team that was able to fight their way up to the number 4 seed, had an opportunity to get as high as the 3rd seed, lost a heartbreaker in the last regular season game by 1.